going on? Well, this is a video that I've been wanting to do for you guys for a long time, and I actually did record it for the first time last week after the hurricane when of course we had power out and all that kind of stuff, and I was in here trying to record it with candles and flashlights, and it just didn't really look good when I went back to go back to look it over. So I decided to go ahead and just redo it, and just thought I would go ahead and just record it again. So anyway, I promised you guys I'd be doing a lot more vlogs, and we're going to start doing that. So I thought that this would be a great time to go ahead and talk about that and talk about different things that are happening in the DJ industry. And I want to be able to help out some of you guys. Maybe you're new to the industry, because I've been watching on some of the Facebook pages, and a lot of guys saying that they don't know where to go, or a lot of things that they're starting out. They got a lot of questions and everything. And so I want to do these vlogs, and I want to help you guys out. Okay, so that's the whole point in that. Now, first of all, let me introduce myself for those of you who don't know me. My name is Stacy Knowles. I'm the entertainment director and a mobile DJ at SN DJ Entertainment in Pensacola, Florida, and I have owned my own DJ service for 17 years now. So I started out in 2003, and I'm not going to say that I've seen and heard everything, but I have seen and heard a lot. So I could definitely share some ideas with you guys, and give you guys some direction, and just talk about things that are from my point of view, and kind of help you out a little bit. So that's really the whole point in this. Now, I do want to mention that we're going to be talking about contracts and some legal issues today, but let me go and say this right up front, okay? I am not a lawyer. I am not a law student or anything like that. The information that I'm giving you is just based on my own experiences, and I do encourage you to contact a lawyer in your area to talk about your particular situation, and to make sure that when it comes to DJ related issues, when it comes to the law, to make sure that you consult an attorney in your area, because every state's different, every city's different, every country's different, so things might be different in your area from where they are in my area or anywhere else. So I'm just going to kind of give you some blanket things to think about, but again, for law specific in your area, make sure you contact an attorney. Now let's talk about the contract. And it's always important to make sure that you contact a lawyer in your area to help you put together your mobile DJ contract, because like I said, that lawyer is going to know the laws in your area. And I've seen a lot of DJs that will ask other DJs, say, hey, can you send me a copy of your contract so that I can make sure that I can copy it or whatever. Well, but the DJs live in two separate areas, so the laws may be different. So again, I highly encourage you to contact a lawyer in your area to put together your contract to make sure that you're following the laws in your area. Now, when it comes to the contract, I'm going to go ahead and just kind of tell you some things that I'd learned from a lawyer that spoke to us at Mobile Beat Las Vegas back in, I want to say 2014, 2015, and his name escapes me right now, but I remember he was from Atlanta, and he gave a really good presentation on contracts and laws for the DJs and that kind of thing, and just some of the things that he talked about were just really, eye-opening, and just really, gave us some things to think about. And one of the most important factors that he talked about, and something that I've been following for years, but he said that the contract needs to be between you and whoever's going to be making the decisions, okay, about the event. Let's say, for example, it's a wedding, then the contract needs to be between you and the bride and groom. Now, I've seen a lot of DJs talk about this on other forums. They'll say, oh, well, no, it needs to be between you and whoever pays. Well, no, not necessarily. Not according to this attorney in Atlanta, what he said. He said that the contract, again, needs to be between you and whoever's going to be making the decision. And the reason for that is because the person making the decision is the one that you're going to have to listen to. Okay, and he gave a real good example on that. Let's say, for example, that like you meet with the bride and groom, and the father's there, and the father signs a contract. Okay, well, wedding day comes, and let's say that the bride and groom come up to you and say, okay, we want nothing but top 40 music the rest of the night or whatever. But then 5 seconds later, the dad comes up to you and says, hey, I want to hear nothing but Sinatra all night. Well, guess what? Legally speaking, you're under contract with the father, not the bride and groom, because he's the one that signed the contract. So I don't know if that would ever, actually, go that far to go to court. But if it did, that's the way the judge would look at it. He'd say, okay, wait a minute, the bride and groom told you they wanted to play top 40, but you know what, your contract's with the father, so you didn't do what the father said, or whatever. But legally, you have to do what the father said because he's the one that signed the contract. Now, this attorney also said that it's okay if the parents pay for the wedding or whatever, but the bride and groom are the ones that actually need to sign the contract, even if the parents are paying for it. So that's something you want to keep in mind there. Always make sure that whoever signs the contract is the one that gets to make the decisions, because it is the bride and groom's day. And like I said, most of the time I've never had fathers or anybody like that try to intervene or anything like that. Most of the time, I'll be honest with you, most fathers I've worked with, including my own dad when my sisters got married, we would say, hey, what's the bottom line? I'm just going to pay for it. I just want to get it done and over with. They don't really want care about the music and all the other stuff. I would have to say probably 90% of the time that's usually the way it is. They just want to make sure that they're daughter, has the time of her life, and that they want to get it over with as soon as possible. So, that's just something to think about. But again, make sure that whoever signs a contract is going to be the one that's going to be making the decisions about the reception or the event or whatever it's going to be. Now let's talk about deposits and retainer fees, and this is a hot topic that I've seen on a lot of DJ forums. People asking about, what should I call it? Should I call it a deposit or a retainer fee, or what's with that? Well, it's different, again, like I said, in most areas, different states, different counties, they all have their, different verbiage on that. But I would say probably in about 99% of the country, and probably 99% of the countries around the world, that a deposit is usually refundable. I mean, you can even say non-refundable deposit, but then, you kind of get into a legal issue with that too. So what I recommend calling it is either a retainer fee or a booking fee, and in that way, the bride and groom or whoever signed the contract, that they understand that that's the fee to hold the date. You see what I'm saying? You're not calling it a deposit, you're calling it a booking fee or a retainer fee, and that's non-refundable in the event that they have to cancel for any reason. Like, let's say, they break up at the last minute, or, something like that. You make it clear that that's the fee to hold the date, and it comes out of the total. So, so just don't call it a deposit, call it a retainer fee or a booking fee. But again, consult an attorney in your area about that. But if you call it a deposit, normally, if it goes to court or something like that, normally a deposit is refundable. So make sure you call it either a retainer fee or a booking fee. I personally call it a retainer fee, but either one of those is a real good to call it. So retainer fee or booking fee is what you need to call it, so that you have the clear understanding that it is non-refundable in the event that the event gets canceled on the, on the client's part. That's only if the client cancels. Now, let's say you have to cancel or something like that, then yes, you'd go ahead and refund it because you canceled on them. See what I'm saying? But that's another video for another day. And now let's talk about the contract and what things you should have in it. Again, you need to make sure that everything's covered, and I would definitely consult an attorney about that. But a couple of things that I make sure that I have in my contract is number one is that the bride and groom are the only ones that can make a decision if it's a wedding reception. And basically what that means is that I'm not going to have somebody emailing me saying, okay, we're going to do this or that or whatever. It's going to come straight from the bride and groom because they're the ones that are going to be making the decision. So that's what I always make sure that I have in there. And also, let me go ahead and tell you about when I do the planning process with the bride and groom. When I meet with the bride and groom, we talk about a sample outline, we go over a sample sequence of events, but then once they decide to hire me, I send them a reception planning guide and also the reception information form, which is what they can fill out. It's got information on there about all the events they want at their reception, their first dance, type of music, all that stuff. It's all listed right there that they can fill out. And when they return that to me about a month or so before the wedding, I then type everything up on a schedule of events and send it out back to the bride and groom. And then what they do at that point is they look it over and make sure everything's the way that they want it. And as soon as they tell me that everything is, verified that it's how they like it, then I'll go ahead and send it out to their other vendors, like their photographer, their videographer, or whoever they want it to be sent out to, so that the other vendors will have a copy of that. And I also have it stated clearly in my contract that I serve as the entertainment director for the reception, which means that basically that the planner that the bride and groom and myself set up is what we're going to go by. So that way that just eliminates any confusion or anything like that. And I always have another rule on that, and it also says in the contract that I don't move on to any other major events or anything like that unless I've verified it with the bride and groom and the other vendors. Like, for example, let's say dinner's getting ready to be concluded, and it looks like most people have finished eating. I'll come up to the bride and groom and I'll say, okay, bride and groom, it looks like dinner's getting ready to be done. Would you guys like to do your toast and your cake cutting in about 10 minutes since it looks like most people have finished eating? And the bride and groom usually say yeah, and then that way, the bride's got time to go run to the bathroom or, maybe redo her makeup or whatever she needs to do. I even had a bride one time that it was a wedding outside. She wanted to go upstairs and lay down for about like 20 minutes just to cool off, and that was fine too. So, so that's what you always do. You always want to make sure that you verify with the bride and groom before you move on to any major events. And then also verify with the other vendors like a photographer. Once I've verified it with the bride and groom, I'll then go to the photographer and the videographer or whoever else they want me to go to, and I'll say, okay, here's a heads up, we're going to be doing the toast and the cake cutting in about 10 minutes. And then that way, if the photographer has to go change out a battery or something like that, they've got time to do that. And you're not catching anybody off guard. I don't ever look at my watch and say, okay, it's 7:30, we need to do the cake cutting, and then get on the microphone and announce it, and then come to find out that the bride's in the bathroom or the photographer's out and changed a cartridge or something like that. We avoid all those problems by me making sure that I check with the bride and groom before we do anything or announce anything. And I've actually had DJs who have told me, they're like, okay, well, the bride doesn't want to be bothered on her wedding day. And here's what I say to that, okay? I think the bride would probably, be happier if we come up to her like for 10 seconds and say, okay, you know what, are you ready, to move on or whatever, and rather than get on the microphone and announce it, and then then they're not ready or something like that. And the same thing goes if somebody comes up to me saying that the bride and groom want to change something. Like, let's say I have somebody that comes up to me, like a friend of the bride or a parent of the bride or something like that, saying, okay, the bride decided she didn't want to do this first dance, so she wants to change this or that or something like that. Well, that's all well and good, but I'm going to go verify it with the bride, and so my number one rule and what my contract says is that we don't change anything on the planner unless I verified it with the bride and groom. And like I said, some DJs would say, well, the bride doesn't want to be bothered on her wedding day. But like I said, I think the bride would very much appreciate it, me coming up to her and taking 10 seconds and saying, okay, somebody just came up to me and said, do you want to change this? Do you want to change it? And they either say yes or no, rather than me just assuming that that's right and going ahead and changing it and then having a ticked off bride later. The bride can always come back later, after the reception and say, wait a minute, you changed something without verifying with me first, and your contract says that you were going to verify, but you didn't. You see what I'm saying? So you run into a whole new issue there. So that's really where I want to leave this, and we'll talk about schedules and timelines and all that other stuff. I'll do another video on that, and talk about what happens at the reception. I'll update that for you guys. I did a video on that a while back, but I'll update that for you guys, and we'll talk about that in another vlog. So anyway, in conclusion, here are the 3 things that I want you to take from this video. Okay, number 1, make sure you check the laws in your state, in county or country or wherever you are, and make sure that you talk to a lawyer and have them help you set up your contract, because they can help you set the contract based on your individual laws. Okay. Number 2, want to make sure that the contract is between you and the person making the decisions. It doesn't matter who's paying, but it needs to be between you and the bride and groom or whoever's going to be making decisions about that event. And number 3, always, always, always make sure you verify with the bride and groom and the other vendors before you announce any major events at the reception, because you don't want to catch anybody off guard. Communication is the key when it comes to that. Okay, so anyway, I hope you've gotten something out of that. Again, if you have a question, you can always drop me an email. My email address is right there on the screen, or you can leave a comment down below, and I'll be glad to answer your comments there. So we'll have more vlogs coming up. I got a little bit of a downtime right now. I don't have another wedding for another month, so I've got some time to do some vlogs and some other things. And if you guys have a specific topic you want to know about, just send me an email, and I'll be glad to do a video on that. So until next time, practice and enjoy.